Hey, check this out. So here's what an alternator looks like with the clutchless style pulley for my Mustang that got chewed up at Mustang Week. Not Mustang Week's fault. It just didn't survive any longer. It was end of life for it. So I do want to go over some feedback for Mustang Week. And this is going to be from the perspective of someone who participated in the motorsports and was at least there for Saturday's car show. So let's kind of get into it. All right, so track day at MSR. I am local here in Houston. I go to MSR all the time. Well, as frequently as I can. But what I noticed that whenever I showed up, you guys added some bathrooms. That's very much needed for if you're expecting a crowd. Because if you say had, you know, a good bit of racers to participate in, say, an HPD event only, probably the facilities there would be okay and does all right keeping up. But you guys had spectators, autocross, several HPDE event or sessions going on. You also had the karting. You had, Vaughn and the RTR team, who probably is going to get a lot of attention from people who are going to travel just to come out and see him. So yes, what you did was adding some nice, clean porta potties in addition to MSR's facilities. Good job. Entering into MSR that morning, that seemed a little bumpy. That seemed like you guys were having maybe a little bit of trouble, but we did get through. I'm not going to say it was bad because we all got in pretty efficiently when y'all did get started. And y'all did get us in there on the time that was on the schedule, which I think is cool. But if it were me, I would probably start it a little bit earlier, right? Because I would definitely try to start it earlier to where you can enter the park and you have an hour to get the car set up, swap tires, clear out debris or anything that moves within the cabin of the vehicle. And then you got that hour time to just walk around, start picking things up, getting cars set up, set tire pressure, adjust suspension, swap wheels, clean out, just get ready to go racing, because then we had the driver's meeting at 8:40. So entry was 8 o'clock, driver's meeting was 8:45. So if they opened the gates and we were just starting to get in there, it probably took us about at least 10-15 minutes to get through the line, through the gate at best. And then we would go sit down. By the time you're in your parking spot, you kind of got started. You get out, you stretch, you see your buddy, you go meet up, you go park where your buddy parks and all that stuff. Your time and your window kind of crunches down. And that's if you showed up on time. So if you're a little bit later, and it's definitely a big no-no to miss the driver's meeting, I would just, probably get like another 30 minutes or so to get us in there, to get us settled down before the driver's meeting. That way it helps. Food and drinks. There was drinks available. And if you are from here and you're familiar with MSR, you know that you can just leave out the gate, go right up the street, and there's a Shell gas station that's fully stocked. You can get all the snacks and drinks that you'd ever want. So I would say good on food and drink. Food and drink was available. The organization of racing, that was done well. Organization of racing, back up. There was a little bit of a hiccup, right? The announcer who was on the PA, he was announcing run group blue, and then he said run group 1, and no one knew what blue, no one knew the colors, no one knew no one knew colors, no one knew numbers. But then he came out probably a little bit later and said novice to the track or to the paddock because the track was about to get hot. When you said novice, you then saw everyone scatter and start getting in their cars, getting ready, and getting out to where they needed to be. Or when they said intermediate, then we're like, oh, that clicks, duh, because we're called the intermediate group. So I think the announcer needs to get on point with what we are calling what, because that was a little bit of confusion, a little bit of a delay there, but as soon as we figured it out, then we all knew that, okay, run group 1, that's novice. Run group 2, that's intermediate. That kind of took a little bit of a second to kind of pick up on. That's all I'm saying. The show, the entertainment, the spectator, razzle dazzle. The things that if they weren't racing their cars, they showed up to get the ride along, to get the experience, to get the celebrity. Like, that was done, I think, pretty well, because if me being out there running an intermediate group, I saw nothing of the sort. It definitely did not impede my ability to get out there and have fun and do what I wanted to do. That was something that was important, because like I was thinking, man, are we gonna get a guy who's gonna jump out in the run group, and it's intermediate, so it's not like it was anything crazy, but basically, was there going to be someone who has to drive slow on the track that I have to go get around? Am I going to be put in that situation where I have to wait because there's some crazy rare Shelby GT500 that's carrying someone who's just there to get a ride along and have a good time or something like that? That was a worry of mine. But then when you started seeing that the people they had driving those cars, there was no issue. No issue at all. I'm getting closer to being an advanced driver. I'm not quite there yet, but I was not able to, catch those guys, and I was letting them pass me by, no problem. So there was no issue with the spectacle, I guess you can say, for me. I went to go check out the autocross that was over at the skid pad. That one, it seemed like there were some racers that definitely went and participated, but it just didn't seem like it had huge popularity. That was just the little glimpse that I got. Perhaps I was walking up there at the wrong time. Maybe I waited too late. I don't know what it could have been, but I do know that it just seemed a little dull, especially when you go sign up for the track day. It's autocross or go out in the big course. Well, definitely I'm going to go out in the big course. So that, I think that was all I really had. I don't know if it was done well or good or bad. The course seemed pretty small. Like if I were to go sign up for autocross, that course seemed small. Maybe that was a good size course. I don't know. But definitely saw a few people make a couple runs, and it looks like they had a good time. The racer pits. This was probably my biggest annoyance with participating in the track activity at Mustang Week, and not just track day. But since we're talking about track day, I was coming off track, and I had to find a new parking spot every time I came off track. I even had my chair, my stuff, my crap, I would put in a parking spot. And you know what they would do? They would just park next to it or right on the side of it, and they'd be parked in either two parking spots, or they would shove it to the back, and then they would just take the parking spot. So there was a couple of times where I came off track, and there was another Mustang that came and took my parking spot that wasn't even racing. And then there's also instances where I would go find a different parking spot, and it's not even a Mustang. It's not even it's like a Hyundai Sonata. It just parked in the pits, like no big deal. That was quite a huge annoyance, especially as someone who's just trying to get off track, getting ready to cool down, look over the car, make sure it's all prepped, make sure it's all good. But then again, that is kind of that place where the racers will go to settle down and park their car. Like it's kind of what that's meant to do. It's not meant to be a VIP parking for a spectator. Like that's not it. But At MSR, I didn't look like they had that issue with the covered parking. It looked like the covered parking, if you had that, it seemed like you were fine. But yeah, for the guy who was racing and you were in the pits, it seemed like that was quite ignored by the spectator parking. I have a brilliant racing idea for next year. I was so frustrated that I didn't think of it at the time. I even went and DM'd Vaughn and Ben Hobson about the idea, and I got feedback that they were down to do that. Of course, you know, it was after the fact, but they were down to do that because it was such an awesome idea. They think it is. So I didn't want to hear that you guys can't get interest on a professional driver, or maybe we can work something out amongst the regular, maybe an advanced and a novice, or an intermediate and a whatever. But the racing idea is called Australian Pursuit. If you're not familiar with Australian Pursuit is, basically, you're going to have a fast driver and a slow driver. Okay, so then, just for simple numbers' sake, right? Say I can run a slow driver. I can run 1 minute and 55 seconds around the MSR track. But then we go get the fast driver who can do it in 1 minute and 45 seconds. So you can see there's a 10-second delta between the two drivers. Well, you're going to both start at a dead stop at the starting line. You're going to give the slow driver a 50-second head start. That's significant because there's only going to be 5 laps to this race, which means I get my 10-second delta and a head start on the first lap. So ideally, if I make no mistakes and I push my car and I'm not sandbagging, same with the fast driver, he's not sandbagging, he doesn't make any mistakes. Theoretically, you both cross the finish line at the same time. That would be such a fun. That would be fun. That'd be killer. That would be freaking awesome to do that. So that's feedback for track day. All right. So now we're going to get into Friday, which was the drag day. Okay. I didn't do much drag racing, so I don't have a lot to really speak on as far as how smoothly the drag racing went, but from me, being a spectator of the drag racing, it looked like it did all right. It looked like it seemed like they probably the prep wasn't, 10 out of 10 perfect, but it looked like people were getting down the track and they kept the racing moving quite easily. It looks like they got the awards out, so it looks like they definitely accomplished some racing out there for the drag racing. Bathrooms are good. They had porta potties brought out. They were nice and clean. There was food and drinks. They have the concession stand over there. That did all right. Entry for that track day was pretty good. That I think H&P already kind of has it nailed down. So they had no issues, no trouble at all getting people in. Again, the racer pits. The racer pits there, it felt like it quickly turned into just Friday night test and tune, where anybody could just go park right next to the drag strip. And for us, when we're on the track racing, that's when some minivan or some Expedition or some Silverado or some pedestrian vehicle comes and just parks in the pits. And now I'm sitting here, car's hot, I'm coming off track, but I have to go and park way away, far away from where I'm actually supposed to be stationed. And what ends up happening is there's a delay because I have to get off when I'm called to go race. I have to go walk half a mile to my car and then drive all the way back through a crowd to get the racing. So that's the annoying part of just the regular pedestrians getting into the pits. And it just happened. It happened way too easily, way too often. Yeah. Okay, so then I think the only last thing I had, because I did the oval track racing, let's talk about the rules of the oval track, okay? And specifically the one that came in after the fact when we're in the middle of testing about me doing a burnout, which I can explain and I can elaborate on, I guess, what I said in my previously posted YouTube videos. because that was nonsense. Okay, so when we do the spectator drags and when we did it at HMP, you are given the half a lap to come out of the pits, warm up the tires. You can definitely try and get them warmed up, and you can get some heat into them by either shimmying back and forth, whatever you got to do. But whenever you get to the starting line, I think that as long as I don't cross the starting line, I don't get DNF'd. That, I would say that if I did a big smoky burnout and I rolled through the starting line, that would interrupt the flow of the racing. You cross the starting line, and I can say you could say that counts as a false start as you rolling through it. But I didn't for any of the times that it actually mattered and it actually counted. So the tires on the car are 200 tread wear tire, but they don't just turn on immediately. These tires, none of them do, especially whenever you get lower tread wear. And then if you got Mustangs and sports cars, and then someone's got all season tires, well, that's kind of on them for not having that competitive edge. But whenever you told me that I can have a 200 tread wear tire, which I do have, and we're about to go racing, those tires need laps. Like at MSR, I need 2 laps. At MSR, I need 2 laps to get those tires turned on and actually gripping. So you can imagine if we're in a 3/8 oval track, I can only shimmy so much to turn on the tires or get them heated up and get them starting to get sticky. So that's why you got to do a burnout. Now, I wasn't doing a burnout to show off. I wasn't doing it excessively. I wasn't trying to be an ass. I wasn't trying to, interrupt anything. I wasn't trying to do any intimidation. I had the car under control when I was doing a burnout. That's another key point to this. So whoever came over the radio and said you can't do burnouts, I argue with them that that's a safety thing. You need, like, you're not going to go. Who are you to say that racers need to go race on cold tires? That's all I'm saying. All right. Even one of those videos, I intentionally didn't do a burnout just to kind of just prove a point that, yeah, cold tires, you're going to spin around. I spun around. It's like it's a warm up your tires. And the burnout thing, go ahead and write it in the rules that it will be done. Because if it's not, you're not going to get guys showing up with a tire that's meant for competition. It's going to be silly. And then it goes like, oh, it kind of it evens the competitive edge if you race on cold tires. Racing on cold tires is the dumbest concept you can come up with. Okay, so that also needs to just get out of your head. Anyways, I'm fired up on that one. But anyway, I feel like that's important. I feel like that's very important to stress, because anybody can tell you that, yeah, that would be a safety risk to go racing on cold tires. I only showed up for Saturday, but what I saw Friday night and all day Saturday, that seemed pretty cool. It seemed like you guys had it under control. It does seem like you guys were on the edge of chaos, but it did seem like you guys had it under control. The car show was cool. It had a lot of cool things about it. The only thing I would say is there needs to be like a schedule that just gets posted everywhere. Put it to where it's hard to ignore the schedule of what's going to happen. Like 9 o'clock, we're doing burnouts. 12 o'clock, we're doing drifting. 3 o'clock, we're doing monster truck show. Make it hard to ignore and make sure it's everywhere, or emailed, or constantly, put out there that you're not going to miss what's going to happen. And then people can see it. They can mark down, okay, Saturday, I got to show up for the monster trucks. That's my thing. I want the monster trucks or whatever. And they'll know. So I think that would be my only real feedback for the car show things. There were some things that I missed at the car show. I guess it'd be okay if I did miss it, but because of how easy it was to miss, maybe there might need to be I mean, sitemap might be nice to know, like what vendors got put where. That would be really nice to have known that VMP was doing the dyno runs here. The skid pad was right here. RTR was over here. ProCharger was over there. I think that would have been kind of nice to know where the vendors were. And maybe I missed that. Maybe I'm just talking. I didn't even look or something. But as you can see, I easily missed it. I do know when I saw the pictures, I said car show stuff here, parking here, but it didn't really say like you can show, like put their business emblem there, like, hey, VMP is going to be in this parking lot, and then people can walk over and see, like, oh, there's Mike Murillo, there's going to be Roush, there's McLeod. I didn't even know McLeod was showing up, but I saw McLeod and I was like, McLeod's here, and Modern Driveline. So the stage, that would be pretty cool. Okay, the whole weekend, on all the days, it was hot, okay? I definitely saw some ambulance out there. Everyone was trying to keep cool. Everyone's got an umbrella. Everyone's got the little neck wrap thing. I got sunburned. It would be really cool if you guys had a cool down tent. If you guys put up a tent that... Don't make it... I wouldn't make it super comfortable so that people just show up to lounge there, but... have some fold-out chairs so someone can just take a seat, take a breath. Get the fans that are also misting or something like that, something that they can just cool down in. Get just a nice big tent that has open walls so there's good airflow, because there was tons of breeze, tons of wind. So that was really good. But I feel like you guys, there was way too much sun and there was no coverage. And you go look where all the trees were, the few that were out at Moody Gardens, people were hanging out underneath them to try and cool down. So I think if we had some cool down tents strategically put in the middle of the parking lots or the car shows, that would be probably really nice for the people who are, I guess, easily susceptible to that heat and it bothering them. So maybe that might be something else. That might be kind of put in for safety for the spectators. That might reduce the amount of ambulance calls for dehydration or whatever the case may be. Which dehydration, I wasn't really paying attention to pricing of the concessions. But I did notice that if I bought like a Gatorade and a soda, I wasn't price gouged. Like, it wasn't $10 for like 2 drinks. So I do feel happy that there wasn't any price gouging out there. Maybe something to think about is you guys get the water bottles and you guys make the water bottles like super cheap, 50 cents, something to where you have no excuse to be able to hydrate and be just that way. People don't be handing out the Gatorades or, of course, that's, but water, yeah, definitely try to see if water would be available. I didn't have that problem, so I don't know if that was already a thing. So, but for the most part, that's the feedback I had. I had to have my car pulled out on a tow truck out of the car show. Maybe you guys get a wrecking company and you guys can work out maybe some sort of deal where you guys have a flatbed, on site available for if, well, 1, you need to move a nuisance, but 2, available if someone, breaks down, they need to get to a mechanic shop or something like that. I just say that because that's what happened to me. But anyways, I hope that this, and I say all this feedback from a place of love, because that whole thing, I'm definitely coming next year. It was so much fun. It was good for the surrounding areas of Houston because so many people showed up, and to me that was a success. That felt pretty good. That was such a fun time. Here's the feedback that I have for Mustang Week. Maybe it's some ideas that you guys can take advantage of. It's one of those things that as what I experienced at the show, doing the participating in the motorsports. These were some of the highlights, the good. There really wasn't much bad, because it seems like you guys have done this before, and you guys were just doing this whole setup at a different location. So there's just maybe the few things, a couple ideas that you guys feel free to take advantage of, and I think I think I'd be excited. I know everybody else is excited for this to happen next year, and I hope it does happen next year. So go ahead, hit the like button below. Comment if your experience was different than my experience. If you had a bad experience that maybe I didn't mention, or you disagree with something with what I said. But if it's your first time, why don't you think of subscribing, and I will see you later.